So again, Chase and Ragnar, thanks for being patient as I was running a little bit late today. So the three of us today, but we can quickly go through things. So I know Phil and Mon are not here today because, of course, this is not a good time for either of them. So that's why we have this meeting alternating times. So congrats to Mon on her new role on the team as a manager for applied machine learning and anti-abuse. And she is finishing up some of her existing responsibilities in other part of GitLab. We'll be starting in earnest at the end of September. She also has some vacation time. Also, join me in congratulating Phil on his role as interim senior engineering manager for the growth team. And lots of congrats and applause, which is great. So I know I have a number of things here, so I'm just going to zip right through them. From the development staff meeting from Christopher, so we changed the development KPIs. So for example, InfraDev past due issues are now a KPI, and development department MR rate is now a regular performance indicator. And our highest level of accountability right now is our commitment to InfraDev issues and reliability. We've got that across engineering. It's great that we have the infrastructure improvements planned for fulfillment that we wanted to do for quite a while. That's a big part of this. We've got things that we're working on around making sure we're supporting database sharding, because that will improve GitLab reliability overall. Error budget work to make sure we're in good shape there across a number of teams and other areas. So good stuff there. And any thoughts on that or comments, Chase or Ragnar?
I've got a question here. So this is GitLab InfraDev, not the fulfillment InfraDev team. Is that correct?
I would include fulfillment in that. Well, at least conceptually, philosophically, I would. Is it actually explicitly including this in these? I'm not sure, but we should keep it a high priority. People can't buy your license. That's not a good thing.
Right. Yeah. If James sees this later, it might be worth revisiting when he returns. Make sure, make sure he's aware of the change.
Yeah, it's a good point. And just to support our existing initiatives that we have in flight already. It's really more to it's to support that.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for I didn't write that what I said, Ragnar. Thanks for writing.
What is this? What is the second one about department MR rate versus? Is that? Can you?
I actually thought that was already a performance indicator. So now I think it is now. It's more prominently displayed. That's narrow MR rate for the team for the whole department.
For the whole department, development department, not okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So 4 and 5 I wrote as read only, but I'm actually going to change 5 to not read only. So I've been working to update the default template for merge requests to encourage behavior changes. It's something that Christopher and my peers and Eric have been talking about. Improve quality via reducing technical debt at MR creation versus later in the process. Nobody likes clicking a bunch of checkboxes though.
Yeah.
Yeah, either they'll ignore them or not nobody, most people don't, many people don't. They'll ignore them or get annoyed by them or both. So if I've already gotten some feedback from various folks, which is great. I actually also put it in Engineering Week in review, but if you have time to review, that would be great. Because the more eyes we have on it, the more we can head off potential objections to the changes in advance. I'm not planning to merge this until I get back from vacation after next week, so there's no rush. So Ragnar, you have the next thing.
Yeah, so we moved to the Zora central sandbox. That's test.zora.com. Like I kind of needed to be reminded of that a couple of times for staging, and our engineers didn't have access to it. So we raised a bulk access request, and it's been a back and forth on the permissions level that we're going to get there. In the end, we're going to get not that much. I think it's too little, but happy to be proved wrong, and just going to keep an eye on this. And for the EMs, bear in mind that some of your reports are slowed down because they can't see what's happening in Zora. Then make some extra noise.
Jerome, I'll read what Jerome wrote. It says finance and IT is locking down the permissions. They don't want config to accidentally be changed without oversight. He's fine with slow and steady as long as we're not blocked, as long as we have clear DRIs agreeing on all sides. So are we blocked or are we slowed down, would you say?
For the two issues we've been blocked, like this access request was open for a month before any actions on it taken on it. So like, let's see.
Yeah.
Is this just a case of that there's, because we have the next step might be to just add more process or something to get around the permissions bit of clear DRIs who's like, you need to contact person X to like go in here and get a report for you or return some data, or is there like another way? Is there like an API robot type user that we could add in a similar way we do with like a database lab, where it's like, hey, go ask this thing for a query and it will come back with some answer.
Also, we need SLOs as well, which is, well, sounds too officious and stringent, but we should have expectations on how long it takes to resolve the things too.
Yep, good point.
Mid-typing, but yeah, like yes to both of these. For now, I just wanted to get it on the radar of everybody and like, hey, maybe this doesn't turn into a blocker. Maybe we're not even slowed down by this.
If this over time ends up going down on because I'm okay with where it is today. It's definitely makes me sad when any team is blocked on another team, and there's different priorities on different teams, etc. Whether we're the blockee or we're the blocker in any particular situation, it always tweaks me a bit in terms of just efficiency. But I understand where they don't want an accidental outage either. That surely can happen. So let's see how this goes over time, and if it's not where we want it to be after it's established in terms of efficiency, definitely let Jerome know, but also let me know as well. Those are the kinds of things I like to get involved with. And it's usually not this team doesn't care. It's team X has different priorities than team Y and different expectations. It's a classic handover between teams challenges. But thanks for bringing this up, Ragnar. Good stuff to discuss. So I guess we're at, actually, before we do weekly updates, I didn't write this in here, but I saw it as thoughts on Fritz and family dealing with wildfires. I don't know if you saw the message this morning, but he may need to leave his house.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. Well, hoping for cooler weather and a shift in the winds, but yeah, if nothing else, if you can just we get out before traffic becomes a dangerous problem or whatever. Yeah, the big.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Chase, you want to do your weekly update?
Sure. Yeah. I've tried to split out stuff by sort of category. So I've been starting with on basically my first hiring event at GitLab since I've been here. And so all new to me and a lot of surprising things in that process. Happy to chat with anyone about and kvetch about that. But I've synced up with Mark. I've got a job description that I've put together, which is assembly from other job descriptions that I felt like were relevant. And then I put together like a rough interviewer list. The things that I'm missing there and could use help with are trying to identify engineers, like in fulfillment preferably, who have been through interviewing training, either technical or behavioral, to assist. I don't think anyone on my team has, and so they'll need to do like the shadow or that go through that process. So that's one thing I could use some help from the team with. Next bit on sort of OKRs, which I'm behind on. I spiked a little bit on the cloud licensing roadmap for Jihu, which is at this point more or less just like vacuum up all the information and try to distill it into something that I can present to them and be like, does this work for you? Like, what are your thoughts about supporting the cloud licensing, other organization? And that's kind of like where I am. The other two OKRs, I'll leave updates in Alley for later. And then some other activity with Jihu, sort of not unrelated to the previous point, but to activity that they're working through. One's about internationalization, which I opened up an issue for discussion on if you haven't seen it. And then also like providing them a newly updated scrubbed export of customer dot for August, and they want to try and do this monthly. This is a what's the right word, deviation from, I think, from where we were at sort of the beginning of the Jihu partnership, where it was like, here's a framework, a customer dot framework that you could use to go for it. And then all of the changes that we've made around cloud licensing and interfaces and sort of those things that way have impacted their like they need to, you know, they're trying to keep up essentially, right? And so yeah, so part of that, I opened up an MR to add some documentation to customers dot about like how to safely scrub this, which is basically documentation for what we've done the past 2 times. This is the 3rd time. And so thinking about like, what changes should we actually just make to customers dot to make this easier on ourselves and less tedious and error prone. From a security perspective, like other like security scanning tools might be an interesting thing to apply here, but we haven't gotten that far. And then for 14.3, there's this a shift in the winds again about the storage epics and that becoming like focus an epic, part of like, you know, where we're at for this part of the, you know, this milestone in preparation for doing next. And this feels like another giant research project, and I've got Chris has been helping, but he's obviously dealing with much more important things, as he being like sort of the what's the right word, like subject matter expert, you know, here, who dealt with this before I've inherited it. So I'm digging through that. It's going slower than I would have liked, but only because like I keep having to like context switch to do other things, like deal with a hiring, you know, hiring thing or whatever else. So yeah, Ragnar, you have a comment or a couple of comments here.
Yeah, so on the first one, there's a list of backend interviewers in the hiring repo. And I recommend reading that repo. There's like a bunch of like extra stuff there. And just encourage engineers to become interviewers. Like I mentioned in my one-on-ones, and everybody, like just about everybody raised their hand and says, I want to help. It's really good. And for the storage epics, I think Tyler and Karina, they were like pretty instrumental in like implementing it. So catching up with them might be a next best thing compared to Chris.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's it for me. Wayne, if you're next.
Thanks, Jake. So I've been recruiting for anti-abuse and getting a rec for the team, for the applied ML team. Moving along there, which is good. I've started doing some of the screening myself of candidates, which as the recruiting team is definitely overwhelmed because we started hiring engineers faster than we started hiring recruiters. Working with Mon on onboarding. The onboarding Google Doc, I think, is 4 pages long of links and things to read. So Mon's got a lot to do. So my part was easy. Is compiling that. Her part is much harder. Did a talk on security and transparency for OS Los Angeles yesterday, remotely, of course. Also a podcast on engineering productivity separately. Recording should be available in a week or so. I'm working on finalizing the budgeting process based on feedback from the New York Yankees budgeting, the retrospective. And actually, I just merged that this morning, and getting everything important done before being out of office next week. And I'll read Jerome since he's not here. So he's ensuring we have sufficient out of office coverage. So and ensuring hiring is moving along. But I note on that is Jerome's out next week. I'm out next week. Nicholas and James are back. I think James is also back next week. Chris's status is unknown because of what he's dealing with. Phil, I think Phil is taking some time off, but they're under lockdown in New Zealand, so he's taking like part-time off. So keep an eye on things, Chase and Ragnar, since you're both next week, here next week, and you're here this week. So everything's in good shape. I know we have good, transition issues for time off, but keep an eye on things too, if you would.
Can do.
For my updates, so the purchase team had a snag with moving CI minutes. We were like this close to releasing, and then we spotted a showstopper. We're gonna wait on Angelo to return from OO. He's back next week, early next week. He's back soon. And purchase has plenty of other stuff to work on, so not just there. Utilization. Chase spoiled it, but storage management is underway. And I agree with Chase. I think this is going to be a difficult one because we have remnants of the namespace storage that Nicholas worked on for like almost 2 years ago. That's complicating things. Like we have dead code that says I'm namespace storage. And then for license, I'm pulling on Michael for hiring. He's the solo front-end developer on license. So we're trying to find like the balance of how much can I use him versus how much can he work on license product work.
Great. I don't think we discussed anything today that's confidential, did we? The reason I ask is rather than uploading it internally, only maybe put it on YouTube unfiltered.
I agree. This is good for public.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the storage stuff is not private.
So we didn't go into a lot of details on it that potentially would be either just we need to coordinate. It's going to be hard. Those are good things to know. That kind of a service. Okay, great. I'll put it on unfiltered, which I think the more we do that when we can, the better. Awesome. Thank you both. Cheers.
Bye.